Hi, it's Ruby Della, and I'm the Member of Parliament for Brampton-Springdale. I first of all wanted to take the opportunity to congratulate all of the organisers, in particular Dr. Deborah Kopansky-Giles, who was my professor at CMCC, and all of you that are attending the World Federation of Chiropractic Forum here in Montreal. I hope that you're having a great weekend, and it's a great opportunity to bring together chiropractors from all over the world. We take a look at the chiropractic profession here in Canada, and so many of us have so much to be proud of. My apologies that I can't join you today. We actually have our Liberal Leadership Convention taking place in Vancouver. And I know that I was scheduled to speak, and Dr. Giles had spoken to me many months ago about the joys of politics. There is always something that comes up last minute, so I had to be in Vancouver. However, I did want to send some remarks to all of those that are attending the Women Leadership Forum. You know, first and foremost, to all of the women and chiropractors that are in the audience, to the students that may be in the chiropractic schools throughout the world, always remember to believe in yourself. As the youngest woman in the House of Commons, one of the most common questions that I get asked is, "You're so young, and how did you get involved in politics?" I was actually 10 years old, born and raised in Winnipeg, and while all of the other kids were watching cartoons, my mom used to make me watch the nightly news every night. And this is going back to 1984. I remember watching a lot of the riots that were taking place in India at that time, where fathers were losing their sons and daughters, and wives were losing their husbands, and people were in tears and absolutely shattered at the violence that was taking place on a daily basis. And I remember watching those horrific images and turning to my mom and asking her, what could I do to help? But I was 10 years old and living, you know, at the other end of the world while all of this violence and tragedy took place. I went to Indira Gandhi, and I wrote her advocating for peace and asking her to bring all the parties that were involved in this violence together at a table to sit and talk to each other. So a few weeks went by after I had posted the letter, and the doorbell rang, and it was a postman. So I, opened up the door, and there was this letter that was addressed to me. And when you're 10 years old, you're not used to receiving a lot of mail. So I quickly opened up, the envelope, and lo and behold, inside this envelope was a letter from the Prime Minister herself, Indira Gandhi. And I think it was at that point that I learned, no matter how young or old you are, or where in the world you live in, if you have a dream and want to make a difference, anything in life is possible. So I fast forward to the age of 12 years old, and being in Winnipeg, there wasn't a lot to do at that time, so I decided to apply for this program called Forum for Young Canadians. And this program, Forum for Young Canadians, actually invites students from all over the country to come to Ottawa to see how government functions. But I was 12 years old and just wanted to get away on a trip. So I applied for this program, and one of the requirements upon being accepted was to actually go and see your local member of parliament and ask your local MP for a donation. So I was 12 and not quite sure who my local MP was. But I had my guidance counselor look up, who it was, and I actually went to see him on a Saturday afternoon with my mom. And when I went to see him, I told him, why I was there, and he said, "How can I help you?" And I said, "I've been selected for this program, but I need this $100 donation." So he said, "Great." He goes, "Here you go." So I thought that was pretty easy, to get this $100 out of my MP. And then he says, "You have to come and volunteer." So being the eager, enthusiastic student that I was, I said, "Great, I'd more than love that, to come and volunteer." Not realizing that he would make me volunteer every single Saturday for one whole year. And I think all of these years later, I'm still paying off that $100 donation that I received from my MP. So as time went on, I had a chance to get more and more involved in the political process, starting from the bottoms up of cutting newspaper articles and answering telephones and going to all of these Liberal conventions. And after a few years of being involved, I was asked to come to a political rally that was taking place because they needed a few bodies. And when we had a chance to go to this rally, there was an MP at that time who was speaking. So he finished doing his speech and came up to me afterwards and asked me what my thoughts were. So I thought it was kind of neat that here was this big MP who was asking a young person as to what their thoughts were. And that individual turned out to be Paul Martin, who was at that time an MP and went on to become one of the world's greatest finance ministers and then the next Prime Minister of Canada. So after many years of being involved, I went on to do chiropractic because for me, it is really about having empowerment over your own health. And being born and raised, within the Indian culture, so much of what we were taught, within our culture and our own religion was really synonymous with chiropractic, of the power that your body has, to heal itself. And I finished chiropractic school in 1999 and had a chance throughout my chiropractic schooling years to be involved with politics. So it was in 2004 where we were getting ready for the upcoming election that was going to take place with Prime Minister Paul Martin as our Liberal leader. So while working on a campaign, for the whole particular day in terms of getting prepared, I received a phone call while I was on my way home, going, in Toronto rush hour traffic on Friday at 4 o'clock. And on the other end was the Prime Minister, and he says, Ruby, we actually are looking for a woman for the riding of Brampton-Springdale, which is the constituency. And I said, great. I said, I know the names of some great women that are going to be great, Liberal MPs. And he says, no, we want you to run. So I was practically in shock because even though I had loved politics, had been involved for a very, very long time, I had never actually thought that I would run at such an early age. So I said to him, I said, thank you very much, but I'm going to go home and I'm going to speak to my mom about it. And as soon as I do, I'm going to let you know. So he says, this is happening all very quickly, and just let me know once you've decided. So I get home that night, kind of casually mention it to my mom, because in politics, things change so rapidly, I didn't think they were actually serious. So the next morning, I get a phone call from the Prime Minister's office telling me that they're issuing a press release. And I said, press release? What are you doing a press release on? And they said, the fact that you're going to be running as the next, Liberal candidate for the constituency of Brampton-Springdale. And I said, but I haven't even decided. They said, well, you were supposed to do it last night. And I said, well, I didn't think that you guys were actually serious. So lo and behold, I sit down with my mom and my brother, and my mom had always been extremely supportive of everything that I had done. And the first thing that my mom says, you're not married. How are you going to get married in politics? And before I made the final phone call to the Prime Minister, my mom said to me, why don't you go and pray quickly, and once you do that, just call the Prime Minister and let him know of your decision. And I went to pray, and something came inside of me that I couldn't say no. I had to say yes. And I said yes, May 8th, 2004. It's going to be 5 years of getting elected on June 28th, 2004. So 5 years later and 3 elections later, it's been an incredible journey and experience. Now, many of you that are listening to this may be wondering, as I talk about my story, how does this connect or relate to me? And to all of you, I want you to know the importance of believing in yourself, of believing in your goals, and believing in your dreams. And whether you decide, to go out and pursue politics, or whether you go out there and decide, to open up a bigger practice, or if you're working in a multidisciplinary environment, to go out on your own, always know the importance of really believing in yourself and going after your goals and going after your dreams. They talk about success so often, but people very rarely mention, what is it to fail? And to me, failing in life is really saying, what if? Never ever say what if in life. I remember when I first started my practice, as a chiropractor, I decided to go into a multidisciplinary practice, into a medical walk-in with many doctors. And it was, I had just graduated and, was very eager and enthusiastic to put all of my skills to use. And I remember walking in, to my practice and, the first day into the clinic, and I had no patients. So I thought these doctors were going to be able to send me a few patients, and a week went by and I had 1 patient and then 2 patients, and I thought, I've gone to school for 10 years, my mom has spent an incredible amount of money, and I'm very excited to practice, but I have no patients, as a chiropractor. What am I going to do? And I remember going out there and knocking on so many doors and meeting as many people, both other chiropractors and other doctors, and going into gyms and going into every possible venue where I thought that I could actually get patients. And it was amazing to see, the clinic that I first started off with 1 patient, actually grow to me seeing almost over 100 people a day. And I tell you that story because it is so incredibly important to know whenever there is a will, there is always a way. And as you gather here at the Women's Leadership Forum, it is important to have that confidence within yourself. If you have a dream and you want to go and pursue it, learn all of the skills and the tools that are necessary. It is important to go out there and to pursue continuing